Good evening, everyone. This is the Hingham Historic District's Commission meeting. Tonight is March 14th, 2019. Thank you all for coming. As always, first order of business is going to be voting members to make sure that we have the right votes for each application. So we have some continuations. We have two continuations from last time, and I just want to make sure that the voting members were here for the last one. So Ronnie, you were here.
I was not.
You were not here?
No.
Okay. So, oh, that's right, you were sick. So we had Mike, Virginia, myself. Ben, were you voting on the last, were you here last time?
I was looking at the minutes. I thought I was voting, but according to the minutes, I was not. I'm not in bold. I thought I was voting.
God, what a loser.
Were you here last time?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were here last time?
He was voting, he
Okay.
and Justin.
All right, so what we'll have, and you?
Oh, wait a minute, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Ronnie, did you watch the video?
I did.
Okay, so all right, so you're up to speed on the applications? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Justin, you were here?
I was not.
You were not here. Justin was here? Okay. Justin, do we have you voting on one of those two applications last time? Do you recall? Did we split it up with you two?
I have to look at my.
Because I just keep it the same if,
You were, because we were, yeah.
on each one. Do you remember,
Yeah,
Justin, which one I had you on?
There,
I wasn't here and you weren't here.
so it would have to have been,
I mean, we could I just was gonna.
they were all here, whatever you want to
For
do, Mr.
continuation
Chairman.
purposes. So,
This is like the Keystone Cup.
how about we do it like this? For the first one, which is the dormers, some of the questions related to the shed dormer construction. Ben, why don't you, if you could be
Okay.
the fifth voting member on this one, that would be great.
Okay.
And then Justin, on the 650 Main Street, on the garage, and you were at the site visit too, right? So you got a good handle on that. So why don't you be the fifth voting member on that, if you could, that would help us out greatly. And then, going forward, for 6 Station Street, this is a new application because it's, because there's some changes to it, correct? So, and we,
Mr. Chairman,
yep.
it really is a continuation because,
Okay.
it's,
Did they file extensions along the way? And
they're all set because these were the things that we approved the building,
right,
as you recall. And so these are just the minor details that they had to bring up.
right, okay, so this is a continuation also, then we should treat it as such? Okay. Fifth voting member on this one. This is going back a ways. Do you remember?
I was here for that and I did vote on it.
Okay, all right. So why don't we continue with Ben on 6 Station Street
Okay.
as the fifth voting member. New application for a fence on 167 Main Street. Thomas, could you be the fifth on
Yep.
on that one? 38 Middle. This is for some new construction on Middle Street and a demolition. Ben, would you do the fifth on that one?
Okay.
And on the Baptist Church, I know that, Justin, you were at the site visit. Thomas, you were at the site visit. Yeah, I think you guys were both there. It's either one of you guys, whoever's got preference, I don't know.
You can say what, I'll go.
You want to do it, Justin? Okay, great. All right, so do you have all that? I'm sorry to jump around so much. Okay. All right. I probably should, huh?
So does she.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad, because I don't remember what I said.
Not a good sign.
So, I should ask this probably before. Does anybody have any conflicts with any of these applications at this point where they would need to recuse themselves?
38 Main Street is
Yep.
one of my neighbors.
Okay.
I just want to go on the record that when we were
Middle
building
Street.
our house, they were supportive of our project.
Yeah.
I certainly feel I can be objective and don't have to recuse myself, but
Okay.
whatever,
You didn't get an abutter notice, did you?
I did not.
Okay. All right.
Good.
Okay.
Okay. And I have, as an alternate, you can, opine on this, and I've got, Ben as the fifth voting
Yeah.
member on this too, so.
Okay.
But thank you for letting us know.
Sure.
And if you don't feel like there's a conflict there for you, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thanks for the transparency.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Good? All right. Okay, let's start with the continuation of 223 North Street. Recall that we were out for a site visit last Saturday, which I thought was very helpful, and we've got some new drawings in, and I think Roger's here to walk us through some changes that you made to the shed dormer based on the comments, and some new drawings. So I think these mics are working. If you want to come up, it'd be great. Thank you.
Ryan Purcell is the owner.
Hi, good to see you again.
I printed out quite a few of the revised plans. Does everybody have one? I have some extras here. Are you all set? Okay, gentlemen. On our walkthrough on Saturday, I think all those who were there had, I think, a pretty good view of what we had done and the changes. It may be helpful just to review a little bit with the larger scale what we had accomplished. So on the front elevation, everything basically stayed the same, except for the adding of the shutters. This is the existing as is, and this is the new proposed. And really, the only difference here are the shutters on the front face. On the right side, again, we walked down the sidewalk and looked between the two houses. There's not an awful lot you can see from in between the two houses. But one of the things we changed, remember, we had moved this window up on the second floor to allow for bed location up in that upper bedroom. And as suggested by the commission, we moved the one in the family room on the first floor to be set directly underneath that. So those two are staggered, and these two right here, these are existing, and they're staying right where they are. And this is the added window, which is in between the dining area and the family room. As we're opening that, there's about a 6-foot opening between those two rooms, and this window is being put in order to give light to that area to separate the two. So this is what it looks like now, and this is our proposal. There was a question asked, I think, on the site about this. This is a pantry unit and a refrigerator in the kitchen. We had some discussion about a window in the pantry, but Marion already wanted to have that as a storage unit. Again, you really can't see this. You almost can't see these two here. These two up here are in the master bedroom, and this one is in the kitchen near the end wall. The biggest change, I think, as I explained prior to the roof structure up here, basically didn't have a ridge. It has 8 by 8 rafters, and then purlins in between. And when I had set this up originally, it was slid over here to save the rafters on this end, the rafters on this end, and the one down the middle. So we're saving 5 of the 7 rafters, that the existing rafters are up there. But it did cause some issues with this piece of the roof on the east side, and also with the windows. If you remember correctly, that we had 2 egress windows from each of the bedrooms, but then we had smaller windows because this was pushed up into the roof plane of the L. And the comment was that this elevation was fairly noticeable from Thaxter as you go off north and turn up Thaxter in between the church and the residential properties. You can actually see the back of this area. So this is what it looks like now. And this is the proposed, with this slid over, so that these windows now are all, they're the same size, and we have the egress that we need out of the bedroom. And then on the west side, the only real difference here is the fact that this gable end of the dormer is closer to the west side elevation. It's set back 3 feet, but prior to that it was set back about 7.5 feet, because that's where the existing rafter that goes up into here was placed. These windows all on this side are existing, and these 2 again are in the master bedroom up above the kitchen, and this window is in the kitchen proper, and this is the screen 3.5 season porch. All these screen units have a glass to go into each of these sections, and this piece is basically being moved out to allow us to have the additional size for the L that is shown here. There was a question raised, I think, at the last hearing about the material, and I think one of the first things we did when we went out to the site Saturday was to go around back and look. All the front and the 2 sides, the east and west sides, are clapboard, painted white, and the L is, and the back side of the main part of the house is shingled and is in natural color. And I know we discussed that at the last hearing, but I think at least standing there and looking at this, it certainly separates the L as it is right now. There was a question was, should we put clapboard on the back of the main part of the building? But I think looking at this from the rear, and you actually can see this from Thaxter, especially where there's no leaves on the trees, but you can actually see this from this direction. I think this whole back side looks better with the shingle in the L as well as the back face of the main block of the house. So those were the changes that we made based on our previous discussion. While I'm up here, does anybody have any question about those items?
Any follow-up from the site visit? Any questions for Roger? Happy with the changes to the dormer? Does the roof forms work better?
I think it's definitely an improvement. And I think it was the right decision, pulling that in. I think my only question is regarding the windows in the new portion or the renovated portion on the back. What type of windows you're proposing there?
We had planned to use the Marvin Integrity window with the muntins, both outside, inside, with a separator in the glass.
And those are wood simulated divided light?
Those are wood windows with the what's the name of that finish that's on that? It's Ultrex. So it's a like an epoxied finish on the outside of the, it is a wood window, but there's the Ultrex finish on the outside, which is again white, painted white, same as the existing sash.
What, is that fiberglass or vinyl, or what is the Ultrex?
Ultrex is a coating that goes over the wood, and it's there for, as a weather, as a weather beater.
Yeah.
But the window itself is basically a wood sash.
Have you?
It is paintable. I wouldn't paint them. I would leave it at the factory finish. I'm not familiar with it as a coating. I thought it was a wrap. I thought it was a cladding on the Ultrex.
Yeah, my understanding, the Ultrex is a coating, a finish on the wood. I don't, again, I haven't been to the factory, so I haven't seen this made, but we've put these windows in numerous projects all around town, and they have, the finish itself is pretty durable, and it's really, I mean, it looks like a painted finish. It doesn't look like an applied aluminum or vinyl.
Their website calls it a pultruded fiberglass, whatever pultruded means.
So I believe we've approved Marvin Integrities before. I don't know if we.
Marvin Ultimate.
Ultimates? Okay.
Yes,
All
we
right,
have
Ultimates.
approved the Ultimates. Not, I've never known us to approve an
Okay.
Integrity.
Yep.
I think maybe you did on the bathhouse.
Oh, okay, I wasn't here for that.
Okay. Yeah.
But that was, everything was special. on
It
that.
was, yeah, it was kind of a water resistant, weather resistant situation.
Yeah, everything was,
Are you open to an Integrity, or to an
Ultimate?
Ultimate, or?
Well, we're not talking about that many windows. So you're really, we're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 windows? 9 windows. I think there's my recollection is about $200 to $300 a window, difference between the Integrity and the Ultimate.
More?
More.
More for the Integrity.
No, for the Ultimate.
So, I guess, just in turn, is this a fiberglass coating? Is it fiberglass composite? What is the,
My understanding from, and again, I haven't been to the factory, so I haven't watched it applied, but it is it's called Ultrex, and my understanding, it is a coating on the outside of the wood sash that gives it a really a good finish. You're never going to have to paint this. Again, it's a solid finish.
Mr. Chairman, would you like to see a window?
you know, that's what I was thinking. Maybe it would be good for everyone to see this window before we go forward, because it's you know, I'm trying to recall if for the bathhouse it was brought in. And I just don't remember it if it was. So I think it's probably best if we take a look at it, because this is something that for residential, we haven't approved yet.
If this is the only thing to hold up the application, we won't know that until everyone has spoken. But if this is the only thing holding up the application, we could approve the Ultimate pending a review of the
Yeah. Yep.
Integrity.
Yeah, if you've already approved the Ultimate on other
Oh, yeah.
projects, well, you know,
How many windows?
I think it's 9.
9 on the new portion.
Right.
Or the rebuilt portion. And are you proposing the same window on the back of
No,
the
we're-
existing house?
We're using, we're going to, on the main body of the house, there are, I think there are two new windows in the main body. And those are going to be to match exactly what's there now, which is a single glazed Boston sash window with aluminum storm screen. So that all those windows on those three sides would be the same.
So even the ones on the rear, so these would still, would be
Yeah, the
that
ones up
single.
on, yeah, the ones up on the top, again, we can do that there. What I was counting was the ones in the L.
Right, so the 9 you were counting on was the bump out. And then there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the rear.
I count 18, not counting the sunroom.
Right. So you have, there's none on the front. On the, on the east side, there are 1, 2, 3 on the east side, because we're relocating the one, the new one that's going into the space between the dining area and the family room.
Yep.
And then you've got 4 on the north-facing L, facing back towards the barn. And then the 3 that are around and above the screen and glass porch. And then the 4 up on the dormer.
And then
On the west side, those are all, on the existing house are all the same, and we have 3 in the addition. I didn't add all those up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. If you count those as separate. If they're all together, then it's -3, it's 11.
And so any new window on the existing house, including the dormer, would be true divided light wood with an aluminum storm.
Right.
And then you're proposing on the bump out
On the bunk, yes.
would be
The L.
the Ultrex
Correct.
or
Or the
Marvin.
Ultimate.
The Ultimate. Yeah, okay.
On the screen porch, those windows are what now?
They're wood, and they're wood screen with, it's like the Brosco,
Yep.
with the turn tab, with glass panels that they're taken out in the fall, and the glass panels installed.
And you're going to rebuild this in kind, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Ben, any thoughts on the placement of the dormer versus what was done previously? Roof connections, they're joined now?
Addressed all my concerns from the last meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
How about, if there are no other questions, how about we go through the worksheet just real quick to make sure we didn't miss anything here? Would that be good? All right. For the review of the site, is a proposed new addition placed so that it will minimize the visual impact on the historic structure?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that because of the dormer. I think it has a major impact on the existing design.
Okay. Virginia, you would be, so you think it's more appropriate to have the roof remain as is that correct?
I do.
On the rear? Okay. Are there others that feel strongly about that at this point?
No.
The changes? Okay. Anything you want to add to that, or just to put a little bit more color on it, or it's just not compatible, not classic?
Yes, no, I can't be persuaded that it's compatible with the existing design. I think it I think it violates the simplicity and the intention.
All right. Anything further on that, guys? Okay. All right, just in an effort to move on, is the scale of the new construction consistent with the width to height proportions, floor-to-floor proportions when compared to adjacent structures and to the site?
Yes.
Yes.
Does the new addition overpower the existing historic building?
Yes?
Okay. So, and that's in relation to the dormer again?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Massing, is the new construction compatible with the adjacent historic buildings and other historic buildings in the streetscape in terms of height, design, materials, roof forms, foundation, footprint?
Yes.
Okay. Is the new addition over 50% larger in square feet than the existing historic building?
No.
No. Height, is the height of the new construction compatible with the adjacent historic buildings and other historic buildings in the streetscape?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, and I believe you would probably say no to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Is the height of the new addition subservient to that of the existing building? Okay. Is there a harmonious relation of each part facade of the building to the whole?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Does the new construction reflect the rhythm of the surrounding buildings in a manner that contributes to the special character of the historic district?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Is the design of the new construction architecturally compatible with the surrounding buildings that contribute to the overall character of the historic district?
Yes.
Okay, probably a no. Ginny on that?
Yeah.
If the new construction is on the existing building, is it designed such that if the new construction were to be removed in the future, the existing building will be intact? So the reversibility question.
Yes.
Okay. Are the materials proposed in the new construction compatible with the historic materials and finishes found in the surrounding buildings or the existing building, if in addition, that contribute to the special character of the district?
Yes.
Yeah.
And windows, are the windows and doors proposed for the new construction compatible with those of surrounding buildings that contribute to the special character of the historic district with respect to material, subdivision, proportion, pattern, and detail?
Well, if we
Yes.
approve the one that we approved in the past, yes.
Okay. So I think a motion can be said with an ultimate, Marvin ultimate, and applicant to come back later with the Marvin integrity if they wish to go in that direction.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, just talking with Marion, we'd like to say that we will put the ultimate, now, you have approved ultimates for use in other
Yeah.
historic buildings. We will put the ultimates in
Okay.
rather than the integrity.
Okay, you're welcome to come back if you want.
Well, I just think we've lost a month or so. We got a contractor waiting to
Okay.
get started. I think we'd like to try to move forward.
What Mr. Chairman is saying is that you would be able to get started, that was Ben's proposal, you'd be able to get started. It would just be a matter of showing them the other window
Next meeting.
at the next meeting. All you have to do is schlep the window in.
And I don't know about the whether they're in order, in terms of holding you up, how much forward,
Lead time.
Leeway
How
on
many
that.
time do we have on the windows? Do we need
But-
the windows like now, I guess is the question.
Well, the nice thing about the integrity is that they're available in 2 weeks. The ultimates are 4 to 6. But we got a lot of work to do before we get to
there.
windows. right?
So,
Yeah.
Why don't we do that, then? Why don't we take an action? We'll bring in an integrity window with us.
yeah, why don't we just, we'll,
And we'll go ahead on the assumption of ultimates unless you approve the integrities at
fine.
another meeting. How's that?
yeah, we meet in a
Okay.
month. If you change your mind, you want to come back with the integrities and show us, please do.
Okay, that
Is that-
sounds reasonable,
okay?
yes.
Okay.
Actually, I live in Hull, and I have the integrities
You
on
do?
my windows, and I look at Boston Light, and I'm in the salt and the wind and whatever, and they are sitting there just wonderfully.
Okay.
So they're very sturdy in
Okay.
terms of that kind of exterior.
How long have you had them in?
5 years.
Okay. All right, good. Good to know. All right. And Mike, your questions on the other windows were answered with the true divided light wood, correct?
Yep.
On the other new, on the rear? Okay. Roof, we've addressed this, but are the roof forms and pitches of the new construction consistent with the adjacent historic buildings?
Yes.
Virginia would probably say no on that, in terms of the third floor? Okay. Will the new construction affect the overall character of the historic streetscape with location, with respect to the site, character-defining site features, trees, and historically significant vistas and views?
No.
Infill buildings is not us. Zoning, is the new construction cited so that it's consistent with the setbacks of the other buildings in the streetscape? Yes, okay. Demolition, there is a demolition, but there is a rebuild with like in kind. Okay. Does the proposed demolition apply to the main building or an outbuilding? No, just to the rear L, correct? Which is to be rebuilt slightly larger. Is the entire building or the specific portion proposed for demolition? No, just a proportion of it, a portion of it. Has evidence been provided to justify the demolition?
Yes.
Yes, is that, yes? Okay. Have reasonable alternatives to demolition bid explored? I think that's NA on that. Will demolition adversely affect adjacent historic buildings or character-defining natures of the streetscape?
No.
No. Okay. Anything else we missed? Good? All right. Ready for a motion? Yeah, please. Thanks, Mike.
All right, I'd like to make a motion for 222 North Street,
223.
223. 223 North Street for modifications to the existing house and existing rear addition based on revised drawings dated February 26, 2019, which include new wood shutters on the front elevation, relocation of windows as indicated in the drawings on the right elevation, and modifications to the existing rear addition and porch based on the drawings submitted. Materials for the rear of the house and rear L addition are to be cedar shingles. Any siding on the existing part of the house will be repaired as required. Windows on the rear of the existing house and new dormer are to be wood, simulated divided light, true divided light, with aluminum storms. Windows in the new modified addition will be Marvin Ultimate wood windows, simulated divided light. The applicant may consider an option for integrity, potentially at a later meeting for consideration pending sample review. Roofing to be asphalt to match existing. And all exterior trim to be wood.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. You got it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up is 650 Main Street. This is for the demolition and construction of a new garage to the rear of the property. Hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
How's it going?
Thanks.
Thanks for having us out and being there on Saturday morning for us. It was very helpful for us to walk around.
So, again, I'm Paulette O'Connell. I'm here on behalf of Kristin Dziergowski for 650 Main Street. I think all of you have new sets of drawings that we delivered on Saturday. You know, with feedback from both you and the zoning commission, we scaled down the proposal quite significantly. I think before we came in here, we were showing sort of a larger front facade with a dormer, a door there, and we tried to scale it down, remove the dormer, narrowed it up, and put the entrance door to the garage sort of set around the corner so that the front facade, from what you see from the street, is much narrower at 14 feet wide. We had kept the slope of the roof similar to what we had proposed before, only because we are trying to put a second story on, and we felt that with the dormer shutting towards the street, it actually lowered the look and feel of the new building than before if we'd gone straight up with a shed going straight back and forth. So we felt this was really in keeping with what's going on in the site and trying to keep down the scale and size of the new garage. I think there was one comment on site, and it was what the elevations of everything was, are in comparison to the new house. Comparison to the existing house, I'm sorry. So we're actually setting, and I can submit this, but I'm using a side elevation here to show you. We're setting the new garage about 2'6" from the first floor level of the main house, which is about 18 inches off the ground. So it's going to be another foot set back down below as the grade slopes off in the back. The existing house at the top of the peak is about 19.5 feet approximately. And we're going just slightly under 19 feet at 18.10. So now, you know, we're trying to keep it'll be about six inches or so below the peak, but as you're viewing it, your eye is going down towards the grade of the property. So that was kind of the idea there. And there's two sets of these, but I can submit this for record. So as part of the proposal, now we're not putting any windows on the front facade. So really the only doors that you'll be seeing are the garage door that we're specifying, a reserve wood collection from Clopay. And there'll be a wood front door, which is to match the existing door of the house, which is just a Simpson wood door. It's going to have a window up above. Piece here. And we had changed the doors, sorry, backtracking a little bit for the garage. This is what the front door looks like of the existing house today, and what we're doing is matching this for the garage. So before we had more of a barn look. There was just a lot of extra details, I guess, before in the previous proposal, so we're trying to just slim everything down. So now the garage doors are just going to match the existing door on site. You know, no dormers. We got rid of the cupola. Everything else is going to match material-wise with the existing home with the wood clapboards in the front to match the front at the 4-inch, and the siding on the sides to match, which I think are about 8-inch. I think I have those here. That's, yeah, 8-inch cedar shakes on the sides. Ironically, on the sides, we were specifying the wood Ultrix windows as well. I don't believe that they're visible from the road, but that could be something that comes up in the next, I'm not sure at what point your eye and what you're qualifying is what you see from the road. We do have some double hungs along each side. And then in the rear, which is not visible from anything, we're moving the existing vinyl garage door to the back, and we'll just have the wood Ultrix doors on the back and the windows, but those won't be visible from anywhere on the front of the property. It'll be set back a good 60 feet. So I don't know if you have additional questions or comments.
Any questions from the audience? Okay. Commission, any questions?
For the record, how far back, if I'm sitting at the back of the house, how far back do I go before the front facade of the garage?
If I
Roughly.
scale here, it's roughly about 15 feet.
15, okay.
Yeah, from the house has a small porch, like a one-story enclosed porch, 15 feet from there.
Okay.
It's roughly at, where we had, you were at the site visit?
No,
but
I did it, I drove by later.
where the garage starts is actually like, we're using that point for one piece, and we're coming up about 6 feet in front of that, 7 feet in front of that, and going across. So where the door of the new submission, the small entry door, is at the front of where the existing garage is today.
see.
And then we're coming up about 7 feet where the garage door
Okay.
will be.
Okay.
A little bit of sense, but it's still set back significantly from the home. And that is primarily a reason of the septic, the
Yes, I see
leaching
on the
field in
site
the back
now.
here.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think that window is going to be visible from the public way, the one on the south side, on the garage.
I think the one, the one on the interior to the property, I don't think that's gonna be visible. I think it's very tough to kind of see around there. So, the other side, on the north side, were there some trees there? I can't.
It's actually, ironically, like, so we're about 10 feet from the property line.
Yep.
There's another garage that's about 2 feet over the property line, so we're about 12 feet from another structure on the
Right.
other side there. So it's going to be sort of like a corridor. Right? There's not a full expanse to that, but, I mean, we could take a look. Again, we could bring, if the Ultrex gets approved, we could do the Ultrex. If not, we could look at submitting a different window.
Certainly from the neighbor's side, I think it's visible from, I think it's probably a very small angle, when you're just off-center a little bit, to the left of the house, that you might be able to see it.
Yep.
But I don't think it's gonna be, a substantial facade that we're gonna see. I mean, splitting hairs, you might be able to see some of it, but
Yeah, I mean, currently there's a vinyl door in the front of the garage, so
Right.
we're actually making that a better situation.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, we can ask Mr. Dziergowski what we approved for the bathhouse, if you want. We were talking about what was the window that we approved for the bathhouse?
Marvin Ultra.
That is what we're,
That is what we approved. Is it clad? Is it wrapped? Or is it a finish?
It's wood inside, it's a clad fiberglass.
So you're right there.
Yeah, so I guess I had a few comments. I think I appreciate the simplification of that front facade by taking that dormer off, although I think what happened was, what was nice about the side facade was that it was broken up a little bit here, where this pitch was kind of
Yep.
brought down, and you had the dormer. And I think on the new design, that rear roof is really flat, so those side facades,
I think on the north, we could emulate that by just pulling that wall back. So you have the gable of essentially what's the front piece
right.
here, and then we could pull that wall back 6 inches and emulate a little bit of what was going on in the
Right.
previous design.
Or did you look at the option of just turning, because it's a long structure, so the
Yep.
ridge would almost go in that
Part
front to
of it
back
was I was
direction.
we made it so much smaller that the roof, like, we were losing so much headroom. But I was trying to pull everything down a little bit on that second floor. They are trying to get a
Yeah.
gym office up there. I know that's not exactly, but that was where we went. I could, take a look and show it to you, but I think that was, as I recall going through this, we decided to change it to a shed for that reason. So I was thinking sort of the difference is sort of pulling that main gable out and pulling the shed back like a typical cape might give a little bit of differentiation to the facade without losing much of the headroom up in that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you could get back to doing something like this along the side, I mean, it's a pretty modest structure, and a
Yep.
modest house between two other large houses, so I think in scale and mass, to me, it seems okay, but I think that side elevation could, use some improvement to sort of get back to
Yep.
breaking it up a little bit and get those roof pitches a little.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, part of it was just not too visible at that location. You're kind of right up against the neighboring property
Well, I
building,
think-
but,
And when we were out on the
yep,
site, I walked that
okay.
way and along that way. And I think you'll see that side. You certainly won't see the right side, but you'll
Yeah.
definitely see that left side. And I think this is a little more successful, I think, than the current version. Those would be my comments.
I appreciate the struggle to work in that environment. And I think that the changes that you've made comport with the original structure. So I appreciate I'll be supportive of what you've offered.
Thank you for having us out. I would echo what Virginia is saying in terms of the struggle of the space, but I think that what Michael is saying is it just becomes a very flat side where the portion that he was highlighting definitely adds a different dimension to it. So if there is a way to have what's in the new proposal that's much simpler, but still
A
have
little bit of that
a
differentiation.
little bit of that, so that it doesn't become just a long, flat.
Is it trying to include that kind of a feature? I don't know how
You
to
could probably
describe it.
do,
I have to put my glasses on.
I know.
that feature right there, right? But if you do that, would you be able to still keep more of the dormer roof that you have here? Sloped roof to the back? Just keep the whole
Yeah,
thing
it's
down,
like
right?
like a
So it's
cape
almost like a
almost.
mix of the two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that would be very easy to do. We just set that wall in about 6 inches, pull
Right.
that out, center the windows. So,
Good.
yeah. I agree. I think I may have played with that, and then I just wasn't sure how simple I needed to get. And I went too far to the one end.
Okay. Ben, anything else?
I would agree with Mike. I mean, I've done a little mock-up here based on what was submitted earlier. I would agree with Mike on that north elevation. And I really would need to see firsthand these Marvins that have been,
Okay.
I wasn't part of the bathhouse final.
So I'll tell, here's a potential solution. So if you want to take some of those comments, come back to us for next meeting.
Yep.
Between now and then, I know Mike is saying that he could see the left side. We can go back and just kind of drive by and just take a look at that left facade and see what we can see from various angles, just to make sure. And then, maybe we can have a view on what's visible and which window direction to go in. Because if it is visible and we can see it, then, we're gonna,
No, I mean, yeah.
it's gonna be the status quo, and it's gonna be the ultimate kind of
Yep.
line, or something similar that's all wood, But to the rear of the house, we're not gonna see anything, and I think, to the inside, the east,
Yep.
south facing, south facing, I don't think there's an issue with that window.
Okay.
How does that sound?
I think that's fine. So just
Okay.
submit new drawing to
Yeah.
Andrea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have a date, right, for,
April the 11th. as our next meeting.
Okay, yeah, and if it's possible to get the drawings to her, maybe
Oh, I think we can
a
get
week and a
that
half
much
ahead of
earlier.
time.
Yeah, that's not a
That would
problem.
that'd be very helpful to us, so we can take a look at them and
Yep.
comment. And we'll go out and take another look just
Okay.
before.
Yeah, I mean, if you feel you can see them, I know that there's a standard window. But if you feel you can't, then we're gonna match all the windows to
Okay.
what we'd probably do in the rear, just
Okay.
cost efficiency
Okay,
and durability, so. that's-
all right.
all right.
Mr. Chairman, we'll need an extension, so I can
Okay.
ask maybe Paulette if you want to,
Write a letter or?
no,
Oh,
all you have to do is sign something.
Okay.
It's easy,
What?
easy. So you can walk back with me, but,
Sound good?
yeah.
Okay, so let's continue this to next time, assume the extension will be signed, and hopefully we'll be squared away at that point.
All right, thank
All
you, I
right.
appreciate it.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
listening and
your
coming back
time,
into
coming
this.
home and
See
everything.
us. All right, next up, we have 6 Station Street. Matt Falconeiri is here, along with Sevi, to discuss some of the details that we were requesting from our last time. Sean Pappage, with the site plan, thank you.
What's easiest? Is it easiest over here? I'll set it up on the stretch. Just get in front of the first step.
So we have some microphones here. We have maybe this,
Better over here, right? It's better over here, I think.
For the camera,
well, you
yeah.
can, yeah,
I was waiting for the red light to go on. Camera to look at. Oh, we have multiple cameras.
do you want to walk us through the building first, or do you want to go through the site plan?
Up to you, whatever you want to do.
Either way.
Up to you, I thought maybe start with the site.
Okay,
That sounds good.
go ahead, Sean.
General to the specific.
Sean Pappage, landscape architecture, 222 North Street, Hingham. And can you see that on the Okay. So for the site plan elements, which are really hardscape and softscape, or landscape, you've got North Street out here, Station Street coming down around as you can get oriented, the building, parking areas. Of course, you can see the green space in there too. So the intention for the hardscape elements are to do the matching brick that you've got down North Street and wrap it around, all the way around the site until you get to our little ramp areas for the driveway. So that brick will be matching. That's the intention. We also intended to potentially do some stone inset, whether it be gravel or bluestone, as an accent, as a threshold at the doors, at the main doors of the structure, as well as at the rear entrance. A little low curb that retains a little bit of grade at the edge of the parking area. And one of the things that's always been on the drawings that you may or may not be able to see real well is there's a stone wall that holds up the site up on the north part of it. The existing Settles glass building is right there. So when that glass building comes down, the intention is to construct a wall that returns, that matches as best as possible the other wall. Now, the other wall is just kind of a busted-up granite wall. It's not a real nice piece of masonry. So I think we, in terms of the materials, would be matching a kind of a broken granite wall, but a nicer pattern and a nicer jointing. And that has to wrap the corner to carry the parking area. In terms of the trash enclosure, because that was one thing that had been brought up and discussed, the intention is to do a stone base. It's 2 feet tall with a 4-foot height cedar board fence, a shiplap cedar board fence. The finish on that will either be matching the architecture, which is a historic Morning Dew California paints gray. I remember that, right? My band's name was Historic Morning Dew back in the day. So
Come on.
it's very uncanny that it would be that way. Or we would do some sort of bleaching oil or a finish that would age it to just a natural silver. So it'll be cedar. Field stone, or the stone itself, would match, certainly try to be a nicer piece of masonry than what's existing. Picture of what's existing is that. It's rustic. And then what's on the site also is that same thing but painted white. So we're probably going to skip the painting white of the stone, but that was painted white at some point. Back in the day, so probably hold off on that. That's definitely not Morning Dew white, I'm pretty sure. So those are, for the most part, the hardscape elements along the site. Certainly, we showed as far as planting. This paving was going to go all the way to the building, so we presumed that there was going to be some planters that I suppose the tenant would probably put in. And simple boxwoods, simple evergreens along the edge of the building, simple ground covers, 2 honey locust trees along the edge. And then going to berry shrubs, some other evergreens along near the trash enclosure, some upright evergreens. Back to evergreen, right on this little narrow area. We've got to keep it low there for sight distance triangle, so we have to stay below 30 inches on that. It's a fairly narrow area. It's going to be pretty bulletproof plant material for that particular area, so it's going to be a text. It's going to be a U. And then we intended to have some low perennial or some low grasses, just so that we're not running mowers all in those tight little spots, keeping lawn areas to here. With Kavanaugh Consulting, we have a low depression in the planting bed that we're going to carry water here and really use it as a little bit of a rain garden. It's not actually technically a rain garden, but it's a low depression that will collect some water. We intended to do just a crushed stone in this area of utilitarian. And there's transformers and other, I can't remember all of what else is in there. Matthew did, but compressors too. So we were just going to do a clean bit of crushed stone, or probably 3/8 inch river stone, 3/4 inch probably river stone, along the side of the building. That probably covers most of what I was here to bring up.
I have a question. On North, as it's coming down onto Station, that little area, is that to be like a public seating area? Is that little?
Talking about right here?
Yes. Was that, I couldn't tell if that's what was on the rendering here.
You know what, if it's on that rendering, no, well, unless that was an old rendering, yeah,
Okay.
there's been some discussion with the town about doing a statue piece there. Was it Benjamin Lincoln? Benjamin Lincoln statue, there's been a lot of discussion about that, and I don't think they're there yet, so I don't think we can put it on a plan yet. I know the selectmen have to be talked to about that, and I think a lot of other folks have to be, but I think that was ultimately the intent.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, I think was the intent, but I don't know how far that's going with discussions. It's not part of this proposal, It's not part of this proposal, no. Yeah.
Sean, what evergreens are you proposing?
So using boxwood here, inkberry in this area, we're using a western arborvitae right here. They'll stay pretty narrow and we'll get taller to break up some of this parking lot again. It's a pretty conservative or a pretty small parking lot, given that the whole thing was parking lot, or currently is. But we still want to break it up a little bit, and then using more of the inkberry down here. Actually, you can read inkberry in both places. Yeah.
It's too
Yes,
bad
it
about
does.
the arborvitae.
I think the western arborvitae is a nice one. A lot of folks are averse to the eastern arborvitae, but we haven't run into too many people that dislike the western. But that's certainly your prerogative, I suppose. And when it comes to narrow evergreens that are pretty hardy, you start to get to be limited in terms of the spatial, area that we have there. So if you put in a Norway spruce, it's far, far too large there. If you put in any of the other hardy evergreens, a white pine, certainly you wouldn't put in there. So we're a little bit restricted in where we can go, but when it comes to palette for something like that, we think we have the best one.
So as it comes from North Street, the grade drops down Station Street around that corner,
Correct.
is it all pitched and are there no retaining walls?
No retaining walls. This curb is going to be about a foot tall, right here, right in this area. No retaining walls. We considered it at one point, but we didn't need it.
What's that curb going to be made of?
That is concrete. The curb that is being reset on the edge is granite. So this was on the civil engineer drawings, and that was concrete.
So it's all just and it's 1 foot of exposure? All the
1
way-
foot of exposure.
All the way around?
Just in this area, coming around to this side, don't have it in this area. So that will be, grade will come to the top of it on the outside, certainly. So it'll be high here, lower inside. Visibility will be more from, for the most part, it'll be when you're in there or from over, maybe at the angle. Maybe. This is all planted in here. Running that distance.
How much of that concrete do you think will be visible?
From here?
Yeah.
Well, that'll be a grade, so we're gonna run it right flush to grade, so it'll be 1 foot on this side or in the neighborhood. So in some cases, it might be less than 1 foot. But from above, it will be flush. So I personally don't think it'll be not very visible. From the outside, it will sit with the grade. That grade sits high along the edges, and a little bit lower to the inside.
Mike, I'm sorry to jump in on you.
Nope, that was all that.
And any on the site plan? Hey, Sean, as you wind around, so you keep going down Station, you go through the entryway. What's the retaining wall going to look like there?
Do we know how high we were going to, well, the retaining wall was still
On that
going to be
corner.
a nicer version of that stone that you saw.
Yeah.
Did we talk about on cabinet plans how high that is from the inside? Is it 18 inches high from the inside?
I'm not certain if
I'll double check. It may not be that high. It's covered on civil engineer's plans. Let me double check the note on that.
And I guess what I'm getting at, Sean, there's not going to be any like exposed concrete as it starts to, the grade starts to drop, and you start to get, you start to show more and more of the grade.
That'll be stone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be stone.
And I'm just, you've done such a nice job with enclosing up that dumpster, I'm wondering if you can kind of continue that theme around some of the, where there's concrete exposed, just some surface stuff, just to kind of, you know.
If we have a lot of concrete exposed at that point, are you talking about the curb, or are you talking about?
I think Hans is talking about the curb, correct?
Yeah.
Well, the curb right here.
Yeah, anywhere where it's exposed, I mean, just kind of continuing the bottom of that. I mean,
Exposed into the parking.
Yeah, I mean, if there's going to be a
Yeah,
lot.
the thing you might do is do granite there, go to a granite curb there as opposed to a concrete curb.
Yeah, I mean, anything that kind of is not, you know, not a man-made feel, but just kind of more of a, I mean, what you've done with the dumpster, I think is terrific. I think it's going to match up well.
It's not a phrase you hear very often, what you've done with your dumpster.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
but concealing it and the stonework underneath, you know, continuing that stonework around might be a, you know.
In that case, it'd probably be granite curb. We'd go to a granite curb that might match what's out on the street, essentially, if you'd want to do that, you know. Yeah.
And on the eastern side, I think that the longer wall,
That's stone.
that would be stone double-sided.
Yeah, okay.
There's no railing required on top of that?
There may be a requirement for a railing,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to see on how high it is above the pavement.
yeah. I think the engineer calls for 1.5 feet, so we would probably need to be at 42 total, right? So there'll need to be some railing aspect on that wall. There's a railing now on that wall on that picture. Some metal railing's been painted some sort of green, one of the government-issued greens, I suppose. But I don't know if you had, there have not been discussions about the rail on that as of yet.
How are you going to manage the construction of this new wall and taking down the old one with the neighbor being so close, with just not disrupting that site? How are you going to do that?
Very softly, very softly.
We're discussing it with our structural engineer now.
Yeah. You're right on that.
Because you got to take all that down, right?
Correct.
Plus the building, which is right up against it.
Correct.
Plus, as you go up towards North
Actually,
Street.
the rear of the existing building is the retaining wall in that
Right.
section.
Right.
So we're gonna horizontally cut it, take the top half off, and then
Okay.
work our way down. And all from our side
Okay.
to start.
Can tie it back into the
Yeah.
grade.
Plus, you're going a little bit lower than grade, correct? I mean, aren't you digging the site out a little bit, you know, for the parking and to pour the slab down? I mean, there's not going to be
For the basement of the,
yeah, you're going to be parking on the slab, right? But then on the front part on North Street, you got storage underneath, right?
going down.
So you got to go lower, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on the site? Okay. All right, thanks, Sean. That was good.
Thank you.
Since Andrea, a week ago, met with Hans, we've got a little bit of feedback to respond to, and so I'm going to pass around some slight modifications in what you've got in front of you. Elevations and some window details and dimensions.
I'll pass around, you can all see historic morning dew.
Thank you.
It's got the little pink thingy on it. Careful, Debbie. Just give them to me. Well, I can pass them out.
Cindy, what you got?
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying, Debbie. No, no.
Sibby's used to wireless mics, so you gotta. It's pretty new school. It's pretty new school. We wouldn't want to do with me.
Oh, man. The comments from our last hearing related to refining the building so that it's more, the window pattern is more compatible with the context of North Street. And so we've made an effort, this is just the rendering redone, but I'm going to show you in detail the elevations where the window placement, the individual proportion of the window units relates to what goes on in the rest of North Street. Also, one of the big issues these days, as you might have noticed with some new buildings around you, is code requires not just elevator venting, but venting of HVAC units, that the intake and the exhaust have to be 3 feet above the roof or 3 feet off the end wall. So it's something that has to be dealt with, or you end up with a kind of steamship of things coming through the roof. Have to put a fence around it, or down the shipyard you'll see a lot of that exposed. So it seemed an appropriate solution to consolidate that with a chimney, and it's not the full elevator shaft width, but it's enough to get the elevator vent plus other vents from the HVAC units, and seems very appropriate with the brick chimneys that are on North Street as well. The other thing we've done, this is the front elevation in some detail, the north elevation, is locate light fixtures. We submitted cuts of those fixtures to you, and what we are proposing is this is a street not of carriage houses, it's warehouses, manufacturing buildings, mixed-use buildings. So that fixture is a kind of industrial look that has the character we think is appropriate. We would have wall-mounted downlights at the entrance doors. There are two basic window types of the standard double-hung windows, and those are shown on the last page of that last handout I gave you as Type A and Type B. Type A has a little crown on it because it's freestanding. It doesn't butt up against the frieze as these do. So these windows have that finished casing on the top. And I know Hans was interested in the size of the commercial windows, so those are shown on that third sheet as well. So these would be the two entrance doors. At the moment, there's one user, but we want to provide for two potentially. The rear elevation, there was some comment about the appropriateness of the transom windows over the garage doors, which we agree was busy and residential in feeling, and so we've eliminated those, raised the doors a foot, and we'd have a continuous canopy because the garages don't all feed into the interior of the building. You come up out of the door in a couple of cases and go undercover to the residential entrance. one of the comments that we heard was the character of that entrance door. I think Hans was concerned, being a symmetrical guy, that it be centered. However, beyond that, we weren't happy with the entrance hall, the feeling that it needs to be residential, so we've modified the stair, opened up the hall, and that row will really be a residential entrance with side lights
Okay.
and the canopy. All of these are downlights along that canopy, and these fixtures on the building are for site lighting. They'll just be a white box. I think you have cuts of that, but it'll be really an architectural element, but all of these are dark skied, and that'll light the upper part of the site, and then the bollards are proposed for along Station Street at the edge of the parking lot, and they'll all be also dark sky fixtures. The fixture cut we gave you is contemporary, but it's the character really of the existing post lights that the town has put in. So it'll be appropriate. I mean, to go to something that's lantern-like or sort of the louvered type is not appropriate. I think you'll find those to be quite compatible architecturally. There'll be a vent within the masonry. That's just the way the elevator vent has to work. But it'll be painted out with the brick. So I think that's about the extent of the comments and our responses, comments that we've heard.
Is there a residential entrance in the front of the building as well?
No.
There's not.
No. No, it's off the residential parking lot only. Front of the building is all commercial. It's all one space. Now, at one time, we had two spaces and we had two stairs. Now we have one stair, which is code compliant. So they'll be separated, and the parking is strictly residential. So that'll really be a residential entry.
Okay.
Any questions from the audience? I'm looking left, I'm looking right. What do you guys think?
Talk about the material, the actual materials, because some of the drawings indicate wood, some with Borel. It looks like all the windows are wood, even the storefront.
Right.
And the windows, the double hung windows are all wood.
Correct.
All the trim
But the trim would be Boral.
and the clapboard is
Clapboard is wood.
actual.
Red cedar.
Red cedar.
Historic warning to you. Well, we're gonna try it out in the future. Reserve the option. Add one thing about the site plan, because we are in a little conversation and you comment. If we could get approval to put a bench or do this, it would be, as the original concept, a good place to stop on the way to the harbor and sit. There's plenty of space.
Totally.
And if the statue goes in, it'd be very nice to have a
Right.
bench there.
There's nothing down that end.
No,
together.
right.
Did you have any questions about the trim and the
No, I think-
materials with the Boral?
Those questions were answered. I guess the other question I had is the height of the chimney above the ridge line of the roof. And is that set? Or do you expect that to change at all? And what is that dimension?
Well, the louver has to be 3 feet, so it's about three and a half feet. But that's the only condition, is that you need to exhaust a vent 3 feet above the roof. And then you've got brick above that, so say 3.5 to 4 feet. But it won't be any higher than that.
So the condensers, did I hear that right? That's at the crushed stone area, or that?
Be along the whole side of the building.
Okay. So in that utility easement area as well as along the side?
Correct. Well, along the side. The easement is the light company.
So nothing in that?
Nothing there.
In that cut, but
And the
further
narrow-
back, yeah, the
Right,
narrower.
narrower,
Okay.
right.
And then you said the trim is boral, so that's corner boards, the rakes,
Rakes, yeah,
the soffit, fascia,
correct,
water table, trim around the windows?
right.
Hey, Ben, what is the actual materials in the boral? What is?
It's a fly ashes from coal burning.
Okay. I know we've used it in certain cases where there was a water issue, correct?
Was it used in the bathhouse? Again, I'm at a disadvantage, I wasn't there for that one.
Lincoln Building,
Lincoln Building?
the entire thing. I know that's not the district, but I know you've seen it, so you can visually see how it,
Okay.
what the textures are and what it looks like.
It's a very stable, high-quality material. In fact, they've stopped making the clappers because they're just too pricey. They can't meet the market, which is too bad. They're beautiful.
All right, but just as a, to get technical, nothing, no fiberglass in there, there's nothing,
Right.
it's all, there's no composite, it's all wood particles.
Right.
Fly ash,
Well,
which
the
is
boral is fly ash.
just the residual product of something getting burned down. You know.
Okay.
You know, the brick manufacturers are making this stuff, so it's all natural product going into it.
Sorry to jump on you.
No problem. So then the gutters, aluminum, copper, aluminum?
Not
I forgot.
copper, I don't think they're fitting. We were leaning towards fiberglass,
Okay.
which I think would be better looking than the aluminum personally.
And that's a wood profile, a wood gutter profile
It
in the
is, got the
fiberglass?
little OG underneath,
Right. Okay, round downspouts?
correct. 3-inch round, probably.
And I didn't hear the windows are all wood, simulated divided light.
The double hung are Marvin Ultimate
Okay.
wood, simulated divided light with boral casing.
And then the commercial units, are those different? The commercial windows?
I don't know if Marvin will have call numbers that large, right? So we're gonna go, there'll be custom wood units.
I see. But the sills,
Sill will be applied in the field, 2-inch historic sill.
and that's a Boral product?
That will probably be a cedar product.
Right, okay,
Boral does make it, but we found it to be too brittle.
okay.
Good?
Yes.
I was going to add one thing, so the awnings are canvas?
They may not be navy blue, but we'll do something appropriate and get administrative approval.
Color to
That's
be
okay.
determined.
Yeah.
Hey, Sevy, I'm having a tough time reading some of these numbers on these window heights for the commercial windows. Looks like it's less than 10, but I can't tell. I know some of the windows down in that area are close to 10 feet. I was curious, just match up with the district. Yeah.
The window itself is not, so we're 8 feet approximately to here.
And then above that is another 2?
Yeah.
So 10 altogether?
Well, 10 to the ceiling.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So it's 8.4 plus 1.6.
Okay. All right, so, under 10, couple inches under 10, okay, all right. What was your thinking on the door in the rear, just the change there? Does that work better for you with the glass door, the larger glass door that's centered, or did you move the staircase down there to go into the,
We rearranged the hall, the stair.
Does that work?
Sorry, we flipped the stair, oh, yeah.
does it work better now? or-
Much better.
Yeah,
Thank
okay.
you for your comment on that.
Yeah, no, I just,
Symmetry. No, it was tight, and
okay,
we all looked at it with Matt, and it's got a few residential, so now it's all, the stair will be
okay,
wind up, and some of the residential thing.
okay, good, I'm glad that worked out. And the roof is, what are you thinking about for that in terms of materials?
It's 40-year asphalt, timber line.
Any color selection that will go with that morning dew?
Neutral.
Well, as far as you get away from charcoal,
Yeah.
iffier it is,
Yeah.
because the roof lightens in the sky anyway, so let's say charcoal.
Okay.
There's some variation to that quality shingle.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of roof, so just
Yeah.
making sure that matches up as best we can get it. Okay, and you're gonna do, Sean, you're gonna do asphalt around the back, right?
Yeah, that's the intent, is to do asphalt in the parking area.
My questions have been answered, good. Is everything down here?
It looks like a very, an appropriate proposal to me.
Okay.
I like that you're hiding vents from the elevator in the chimney.
It's simply that
Great idea.
you can't fight these days, so, but it seems to be an appropriate addition. It makes it fit better, even breaks it up a little more. Right.
Okay. In terms of the worksheet, just want to make sure that we hit on everything. The body of the, in the framework of the building we've already approved. Let's just hit on some of the things related to the specifics here to make sure we didn't miss anything. Materials, are the materials proposed for the new construction compatible with the historic materials and finishes found in the surrounding buildings or the existing building, if an addition, that contribute to the special character of the historic district? I think the materials match up.
Yep.
Okay. As far as the windows and doors, are the windows and doors proposed for the new construction compatible with those of the surrounding buildings that contribute to the special character of the historic district with respect to material, subdivision, proportion, pattern, and detail?
Yes.
Roof forms, we've covered some of that before. Infill buildings, does the new building correspond to other buildings, other contributing buildings in the district with respect to lot size, siding, setbacks, footprint, height, mass, roof forms, and floor area ratios?
Yes.
Yes.
Does the new construction compete with or detract from the existing buildings in the streetscape?
No.
Is the mechanical and automobile infrastructure appropriately concealed if it is not consistent with the district?
Yes.
Yes.
Is the new construction sited so that it's consistent with the setbacks of other buildings in the streetscape?
Yes.
Demolition we've approved, so I don't think we need to go through that again. Okay, anything else that I'm missing here? You guys can think of? Okay. As far as any changes to the site plan, from here, you would come back in terms of just minor modifications, or check in with Andrea just to make sure that it's, maybe it's something we don't, if it's something that we don't need to look at, just check
Correct.
in with her.
And
Okay.
we talked about the curbing.
Yep.
Going to granite.
No problem.
Okay.
And if there's any question about railing, the railing for that wall that hadn't really been fully developed yet,
Okay.
I think that's a larger discussion in terms of what that material is and design. Because I don't know that it would be matching what's there now. Something tells me it may not be.
Code.
But it might not.
You might not pass anymore.
That's good.
All right, are we ready for a motion then?
Think so.
Think we got enough? Okay. Would you like to tackle that?
I can give it a shot.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion for 6 Station Street, a certificate of appropriateness. Let's see. Drawings submitted March 7th, 2019.
Actually, I looked to the 14th. And 14th.
Oh, 14th, oh, right, because these were submitted on the 14th, with changes submitted on the 14th.
The date on the drawing says 7 or so.
But then there's a revision date,
Today.
handwritten.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Windows in the residential, the double-hung windows to be Marvin Ultimate All-Wood Simulated Divided Light. Commercial units on the commercial level to be wood, custom. Historic sills in cedar, casing in boral, corner boards, rakes, soffits, fascia in boral, water table in boral, cladding, clear vertical grain, red cedar, clapboard, architectural charcoal or similar color to charcoal on roof, fiberglass gutters with wood profile, round downspouts, white.
To match trim.
To match trim color?
Yeah.
Do we have a trim color?
So it'll be cream. I don't think we've picked one.
It'll be a cream color.
Within the
Like,
historic
But we'll
palette,
paint,
okay.
we'll paint.
Okay. In
Boral.
I mean, same with,
There's really nothing appropriate in here, so we'll just have to,
okay,
most people just kind of go with the off-white,
okay.
creamy color.
Clapboard historic morning dew. Awning color to be determined?
Yeah.
Canvas awnings. Lighting as designed and submitted in packet. Hardscaping. Hardscaping as submitted in preliminary landscape plan by Sean Papich, with the exception of the concrete curbing, the 1-foot tall concrete curbing to be granite curbing. Railing on top of retaining wall on, is that the north?
East.
East elevation, that is east elevation to be determined.
Drawing submitted January 23rd, 2019 from Sean.
Okay.
No, do you want the newer one, Sean?
No, that would be accurate.
That would be it.
Yep, that's accurate, thank you.
Trash enclosure as drawn, March 6th. So I guess I just want to point out then, the plan submitted 3/4/2019, it's A301, A302, and A602. Those would take the place of the March 7th plan. Good. 3'6" chimney height, you thought, off the ridge?
Approximately.
Okay.
Red brick.
Red brick, veneer. What'd I miss?
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great. Couple questions. Are you through the process, through the approval with the town?
Everything but Board of Selectmen.
Okay. When do you think you might get started on this?
I believe it's beginning of April was our first available to get into Board of Selectmen.
Okay,
And now that we have this, we'll start working on finalizing plans and
okay,
maybe simultaneously hit the building department.
okay. I'd just like to say thank you for taking this on. I think this is going to be a significant improvement in Segregated Town. I think the town is really looking forward to it, so really appreciate the work on this, all of you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Great. If you have any questions going forward, any changes, just let us know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks, Andrew.
All right, thanks for waiting. A little bit behind 167 Main Street. This is for the installation of a fence, which is going to be a pool enclosure.
Yes.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Ben Levin.
Hey, Ben.
How's everybody tonight?
Good, how you doing?
So I've met with Andrea a few times, we've talked about this. I did submit some photos, which hopefully you all have, as well as the site plan, which has been part of the file for quite a while. There's a small existing wood fence to the rear of the property that's, we had hoped to be able to reuse, replicate in some way. We decided that it really wasn't salvageable, and we felt that the metal fence was a bit more appropriate regardless, because the house is brick. So as we started to search, look at some different fences in the area, the one in the photograph is very similar with the exception of the round circles that you see. We were not going to plan to have those round circles in the fence. In terms of distance from the street, so the distance from the street is approximately 50 feet from the lot line, I should say, and that's going to run from the corner of the house to the side yard, and then up the side yard and in the rear of the property. The fence continues to run, and then there's a small enclosure that's underneath a covered breezeway.
Great, thank you. Questions for Ben?
Just to confirm, so the site plan, I'm assuming that the line that indicates the fence on the site plan is accurate, so it would come off the corner here, along this way, down here, come over to the garage, and then in between the house and the garage?
That's correct.
Yep. Okay.
Are there any questions from the audience, by the way?
Mrs. Mitchell? Not yet.
So this is an aluminum, painted
Yes.
aluminum.
Yes.
did you decide on a height of 6 feet?
The town requires a 6-foot fence if there's a pool, so that's how we stuck with 6 feet.
Well, that's interesting, because I think in Massachusetts it's 4 feet.
I believe you're correct.
You're right.
I think Hingham has the highest requirement, as far as I know, in the state. Personally, we prefer a shorter fence.
Understood.
In terms of gates?
Yes.
Are those gates just going to be looking and matching the fence, or are they going to be standing out in any way?
No, they're going to match the fence. And I should add that the intent is with the stretch that runs along the street, it'll mainly be covered to some extent with some type of evergreen planting, which we haven't decided yet for privacy. You know, I think the people tend to lean towards these wood fences for privacy, but we just didn't feel after doing research it was really in keeping with a brick house.
For the posts, I've seen these before, but for the benefit of my fellow commission members, the post is like a 3x3?
Yes.
Okay, and any detail for a cap on the post?
The intent is to try to match some type of finial, but I'm not quite sure they can do that on the post.
Right. It might just be a pyramid.
Exactly.
A flat.
Exactly.
Okay.
What color are you proposing?
It would be black. Try to mimic sort of a wrought iron fence if we could.
Yeah.
The issue with the wrought iron or even a steel is that there's no type of warranty that any of these companies would provide because of the distance from the water. So the only way that you can have any type of warranty at all on the fencing is if it's aluminum.
I have another question, and that is that I drove by, and it looks like a smallish area. I didn't really
It's
go
very
up.
small.
Yeah. So, and, you know, there's proximal properties there. Have you talked with the abutters to get their take on the project?
So the only neighbor that it's really visible, and I think you can see it in this photo, is the neighbor to the rear up at the top of the hill. And we did mention to them, I don't quite know what their plans are, but I believe that they plan to actually try to do some type of an addition here. So they sort of were welcoming to it, and there's even been discussion about maybe sharing in some type of an expense of the fence potentially.
Anybody else?
I said it chose to emulate the wrought iron fence.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, will the fence come down the driveway? Will the pool mechanics be screened from the driveway as well as from your angle from the home?
Yes, so the pool mechanics we're going to circle in evergreen plantings, so they're not visible from any angle at all. In terms of the side, do you mean this side here?
Yes.
Yeah, so this side, there is a fence here that runs along that tree line, or effectively in that tree line. And yes, the fence will be there. We're going to be adding additional plantings from what exists. There's a few very large rhododendrons there that cover it when they're sort of in bloom mainly, but we're planning to add some additional plantings there as well.
Any follow-up? Good.
Sorry, I just have one question looking at the drawing.
Sure.
So if I look at this picture right here,
Yes.
where's the fence going to be? Is it going to be along the retaining wall down here or on top up here?
So this corner right here
Yep.
of this small three-season room,
Yep.
the fence is going to run perpendicular to Main Street along
Correct.
that stretch here.
Yep.
And then there's another stretch of fence that's sort of 3/4 of the way up this hill.
Got it, okay.
The hill's quite large. The picture doesn't really do it justice, but when you're standing in the yard, I mean, it's not something you'd ever walk up.
Right.
It's too steep of a grade.
Okay.
Yeah, those contour lines are very tightly spaced.
Okay, good. Anything else? Any follow-up from the audience? Somebody like to make a motion for 167 Main Street for the installation of a fence?
Yeah, I'll do that. I would like to make a motion for a certificate of appropriateness for the installation of a black painted aluminum fence matching submitted picture with plot plans, site plans dated August 21st, 18. To match picture without the ball on top of the finial, is that correct?
The circle.
The circle?
Which is in the
circle
sort
on
of
top of the...
top third.
Oh, it's the circle that's...
Yes.
Got it. Okay, so it's to match the picture but without the circle.
At the mid-rail.
In the mid-range. And it would be, as stated before, painted aluminum black. Yep.
Correct.
Do you have a second?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, thanks for waiting. Next up, we have 38 Middle Street. This is for the
Can I have your
construction
site
of a
plan?
new garage with the room above.
Because I'm gonna trade it. I'm gonna give her one to take home, because mine's stamped. Yes, it's all loaded up. So, Joanne, it's all loaded. You can go from here. Yes. Yeah, oh, it's on.
Thanks for coming in, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Could be a little dark.
Okay?
Very good. Thank you.
So, yeah, so thank you. Good evening to everyone. My name is Aaron Paulhemus, Paulhemus Avery Silva Architects Builders. I'm here with Stephen Glasheen, who's the architectural project manager for the project at 38 Middle Street. So we did do a PowerPoint, which hopefully is helpful just visually, and we thought we could just walk through largely what we presented to you in the file here, but also some additional context that we've provided from the neighborhood, and then, of course, from there, answer any questions that you have. So this first slide here is the site, and is there a way to, is there a pointer or a way to?
Oh,
Is this actually
you know what? That does it.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one.
This is the site here, the site plan for 38 Middle Street,
Laser pointer.
and the two, and what we're proposing is toward the rear of the site, which I can't point out here, but there is a proposed removal of a deck off of the house, and it's being replaced with a new porch deck. That's that rear section that is brown in color. And then to the right of that is a garage. There's currently a one-car garage on the site, and we are proposing the removal of the existing one car and replacing it with a new one car that's a bit taller, and we'll show you that in these further slides. So again, these are the existing, so there's an existing porch on the rear. Really nothing else is changing on any of these front or front side elevations. It's just this rear section, which you can see on the bottom, which we'll see shortly. And then this is the existing one-car garage that currently sits on the site. Here are the photos of the house with the main house here and the garage in the distance. Again, nothing is changing on this front section of the home. The small porch addition that's being proposed, perfect, thank you, is in the rear. Again, nothing's changing on the front of the sides. From this elevation here, again, there's a deck that's being proposed back here, but not visible from the street here. Keep going. This shows this deck that's being proposed to be removed, and you'll see a new deck in its place. This is the existing one car. So here we are to the proposed. So that existing deck that is currently at the back of the house is being proposed to be removed and replaced with a new open porch, again on the rear of the project. Oh, and the fireplace chimney, which is currently here, is being proposed on this elevation here to the south. Unchanged front elevation from the south side. Again, this is where the new porch is being proposed, and the chimney is moving from the rear elevation to the side elevation. And here's from the north elevation and the rear elevation where you can see that new open porch. And here is the proposed garage, which is being proposed in place of the existing one car that currently sits on the site. We just did a little comparison here to help see the existing kind of small, very small scale one car, which is now being proposed, still a one car, but a bit more in scale with the project. The other thing to point out is this existing garage is less conforming. The way the new garage is being proposed, it's being shifted so it's fully conforming within the zoning setbacks. We did take some neighborhood photos just to provide some context for the neighborhood of other similar structures with garages in the back. So this is 34 Middle Street, 44 Middle, 54 Middle Street, 49 Middle Street, 24 Middle Street, and 14 Middle Street, and then showing over here at 19 Middle Street. So we did look at the neighborhood and, again, tried to take in what exists in the neighborhood. So what we've done here is we've just, we'll probably get to this.
Yeah.
We did just want to show that these both the garage and the rear addition were done back, I think it was 98 and
97 and 87.
So they were newer additions. Just wanted to make that clear as well. And we just have the permit information here. So why don't we go back to the beginning? So we'll stop there. I mean, we wanted to give you an overall presentation. If you have any questions, happy to dig in.
Thanks for all the detail. Any questions from the audience? Okay, who would like to begin? Questions for Aaron?
Can you tell me the difference in ridge height from old garage to new garage?
So the existing ridge height is about 16 feet, and the proposed is 22 feet, so a difference of 6 feet.
And the materials you're proposing to use, are these, it seems to be all cedar?
A combination of the rail here would be cedar, so it'd be a combination, all wood. We'd
All
have,
wood.
yes, combinations of cedar and other
Okay.
painted woods, and potentially boral as well. We did boral in sealing or soffit conditions. We would use boral, painted boral, because it's much more stable than wood, but otherwise wood painted.
So the underside of this, for instance, of this porch?
The underside of the porch
Right.
would be a boral product, for example, or a soffit.
Okay, so in the soffits of the garage?
Yeah, those would be boral as well,
Okay.
correct.
And the windows you're proposing? Are those labeled here? I apologize.
Yeah, Anderson Architectural Series windows.
Oh, okay, the A series. So that's a clad unit.
It is. That is what exists currently on the addition on the house, that same type of window. So we are proposing a consistent look to what exists on the addition. That was the intention.
The existing windows are actually have an applied one on the outside, and we're doing a simulated divided light for the,
Okay, and the overhead garage door then?
almost identical to what exists there.
Is it all wood?
Painted.
Painted
all
wood.
Painted wood?
Yep.
Was a study done of turning the garage 90 degrees?
So there's a couple issues with the garage. One is it's non-conforming the way it sits now, but also it's rather small. So the idea, the client's goal is to both make it conforming on the site, but also allow for some storage and some space, potential future finished space, but at this point, storage on that second floor area. So it could be like a studio loft, not a habitable space, but a space that could be used. So
Storage.
a goal was to provide that additional level of storage. That's why we're proposing to both shift it and build a story and a.
So the
half, if you will.
garage and the space above will not be conditioned?
Correct. It is not planned to be conditioned at this stage.
And you say it's non-conforming, but you will make it conforming, and so that's the setbacks?
Correct. It's currently.
It's 15, yeah, the
Back.
site. It's,
The first slide
I see.
It's currently going off this way, so we're turning it so it's actually running perpendicular with the lot line, so it conforms.
Got it. I have no further questions.
Yeah, first I just want to thank you for the thorough nature of the presentation here. I mean, this allows, I think, certainly my decisions to be made a little easier with all the information we have here, so thank you for that. I think the addition to the rear of the main house is fairly modest, and I think the garage is generally modest as well, but in regard to the height of 22 feet, because proportionally it seems pretty tall and narrow, is there any room to drop that just a little bit to get the proportions to be less vertical?
I don't have the ceiling height there. It's pretty, kept it low. I think we have a header height of these windows at 6'6", the second floor. And then obviously it slopes, the roof slopes.
So it's pretty close to the minimum, kind of minimum required to have adequate headroom around the perimeter.
So in the dormer, it's 6'6"?
6'6" at the
At the
header height at the window.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I have.
was the house? I didn't see it in the materials. Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I'm not sure we have that from the assessors.
Okay.
We had the additions, but.
It may not be worth the trip.
Oh, that's easy.
One reason for the question is, in terms of moving the chimney, if it was a historic house, then I think there would be an issue with perhaps moving the chimney.
So the chimney, if you go back, the chimney was actually added with the addition in the, it was either 87.
Okay.
But the chimney, and actually, if you look at so the front chimney, if you actually that was the front permit. So the front chimney is an historic brick. If you go to the rear chimney, it's not an historically appropriate material. There it is. This is a very inexpensive brick. So the intention here is to have an historically relevant brick that will match the existing chimney. So with the moving, we'll be rebuilding it with a brick that actually is appropriate in the new location.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, this was built in 87.
Uh-huh.
The addition.
The age of the house is 1914.
So our understanding, if you go back to just the side shot, Steve, our understanding is that was this main core, and then the addition was in 87, and then there was a further renovation in the 90s, and the garage was then built in the 90s as well.
You know, the garage, I think the dormers are too dominant for the design of the garage, both in and of itself, and also in terms of looking at comparisons in the streetscape. I mean, I can understand wanting a two-story garage for storage and the whole 9 yards and make it conforming, but I think it would be much better without the dormers.
Okay. Without the dormers, there would be
Not a lot of usable space.
the only space someone could walk would be the center, basically like the center few feet. So there wouldn't be really any space to use without dormers because the ridge is so low, and because the 6.6 is to the lower roof section. So this right here is about probably, 5 feet?
Less than 2 feet off the ground.
So, yeah, 2 feet off the ground. So if someone were to walk in, obviously you couldn't stand here. With the pitch of this, the only section a person could stand would basically be right here. So without those dormers, it becomes essentially useless from a use perspective, a storage perspective.
Yeah, yeah. No, I just think it's a visual impediment. Those dormers are a visual impediment, I think. I mean, I understand use. Is there any way you can get more use without having such a visual blight?
I think really so the only other option is to have the ridge much higher. So if you go back to this other photo, so here's an example of if you had a larger structure with a much higher ridge,
yeah,
that would be the only way to accomplish that, which in this case, the challenge is it's a tight area,
yeah,
right? So the garage would then become very dominant in that relatively small space.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that.
So, I mean, this is an example of obviously a two-car with adequate space, but it's probably 6 feet taller and significantly wider. We did look at some of the other houses in the neighborhood just again for context. I mean, here's another wider and taller garage. And then, again, another wider and So I think short of making it, actually go back to, of making it just the one before. The one before that. There was another one. That. I think short of making it, a different, like this is a gambrel that faces, so short of really changing the kind of architecture and the scale, even making it even larger, I don't know of another way to eliminate the dormers and still have the space useful.
Aaron, I just, I feel a lot, I think Virginia's nailed this. If you look at the main house in terms of the pitches on the roofs, there's a pretty significant pitch on the main house, and I think the drawings that you have now for this garage with the prominence of these dormers, it makes it a very squat kind of roof line as you're looking at it, where everything else has got some real pitch to it. My other concern is if you look around the neighborhood, we really don't see, double dormer type garages like this. I think, for me, I would ask, we do see sometimes a single dormer, facing into the property. Does that create enough room with a single dormer? I know there's not the symmetry there, but at least you still see the pitch on one side that matches up with the rest of the house. I just think there's a compatibility issue with the way it's drawn right now and the prominence of these dormers.
So
it's just very squat looking at it from the street view. See, that one's tucked back in there, and it's just not as prominent.
So would you be open to a taller structure?
Well, you don't want to, it's a single garage, there's one bay here, so the challenge for you is to create something that's just not too tall, that's only a single garage, it doesn't look too, the verticality of it is not too extreme. But then you want to hide these dormers if you can as best, and kind of integrate them into the house, or just have one dormer perhaps, so it's not as visually, that
yeah.
You're preserving the pitches on one side at least, which matches up with the house. That's just my view. I don't,
I'm concerned one dormer would feel, with this type of structure, would feel very kind of uneven. But
I mean, we can play with the gable end pitches.
Potentially the pitches could adjust a bit, and maybe the ridge. I mean, the ridge is still significantly, as you can see, significantly lower. So if the ridge potentially gets a bit higher and the pitches come down, that's something we can look at.
another thing you can think about is you can create a little bit of an L off the back perhaps to create some more storage, so it's a single story. So it's, you can just you can go into the property a little bit more off the back potentially. So you have you have a ridge here, and then you have a ridge here, a small ridge off the back.
The yard is,
Okay.
there's not a lot of room for that. It's pretty tight, but we can take all that into consideration.
What if you step the dormers in a little bit instead, so that you still have the dormers, but if they were stepped in, you wouldn't have that 22-foot straight height coming up. If they could be stepped in, the whole garage is what, 17 feet wide? I think, and the old one is 14, right?
Correct.
So it's basically just allowing the regular car to go in now, versus the other one doesn't really allow a whole lot, right?
Exactly. That is one of the other issues with the current garage, is it really doesn't allow a car. Yeah, thank you for reminding us of that. So,
And these dormers are going right to the ridge too. So maybe.
Right, so that was my other question, if they could be stepped in just a little bit and then lowered a couple of inches just off the ridge height, so that they would come off a little bit smaller.
Which there was a picture of one like that, one of the.
yeah, I think So we could look at something like that.
Did you increase the height of the, in your proposed garage from the existing?
Yes.
It is,
Yes, it's
16 to 20.
It's about 6 feet,
yeah.
allowing for that second floor.
I mean, I understand you have some challenges to work with here in terms of the lot, and also in terms of the fact that the existing is non-conforming, and trying to get it to conform, and the lot size is small to begin with, so. I actually, based on what is there, and having looked at what we have looked at in other properties, I think that this is a really good start. Trying to get a garage in that can actually be used.
Right, and stepping back those dormers will also break up the north and south elevation. I don't know how much of that is visible from the road, but it seems like a big surface there at the moment.
It sits so far back in the property, I don't think
Probably
there's
not.
anything that's really much visible.
I just want to come back to this, Ben and Mike, how do you guys feel about the dormer question?
They do look like wings.
Yeah, I think what you've described, I think those could certainly improve, I think, upon what's there.
Ronnie, what do you think?
Yeah, I was wondering if you could go a little taller. It seems to me the original, the garage on the original, that exists now almost looks odd. It's too small.
That's
So
exactly right.
it looks almost like a child's playhouse as
Right.
opposed to a garage.
It does.
So I think that you could raise the height a little bit more and still not have it incongruous with the house. But I agree that the two dormers, and I was gonna gravitate to the one dormer too. We've engaged in that a couple of times with garage renovations, is to get one dormer without, so it allows for the kind of space that you need for utilization up there, but it doesn't overwhelm it. But I think if you went, in my view, I think you could go higher, could go taller.
I think a combination of that, with dropping a bit, potentially bringing in, we could look
Right.
at all of that.
And then receding it.
Yeah. Good comment.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would be one of my concerns too. If you're making it even taller and not widening it at the same time, then that vertical nature of it, tends to make it even more top heavy.
It may actually help though, because if it gets a bit taller and the dormers come down, it'll actually pull the sides down a bit. I think it might actually, given the feedback I'm hearing, I think it might help. If we, even slightly, even just say a
Yeah, I
foot
think
or
it'll
so.
help the pitch.
Just the pitch gets a little bit stronger, which
Right.
helps the dormers pull down. I think it's a good comment.
How wide is the garage?
17 feet wide.
So, you might want to experiment with a larger door too, that could, impact the, could kind of fool the eye a little bit.
Visually.
Yeah.
So it's not, if you do take it steeper, then you got a little bit more access to the garage. I mean, if you think about it, minimum size for a garage door is what, 8 foot? If you have two,
Nine
is 9 the minimum now?
Nine is, you can get an 8, but 9 is pretty typical.
9, so, all right, so 18, so, I mean, if you, for a single garage door, what do they,
Typically, we'll do 9 wide, 8 high.
but if it was a double,
Size.
a double size, how big do those get? I mean,
They can go up to 18, but a door and a half.
door and a half?
That's probably a little too big for the structure, but we could look at, I hear what you're saying. But
I
it's
think
important.
the size of the small size of the door accentuates what's
Yeah.
Mike's concerned
height.
about it.
Yeah,
It sort of
stretched.
highlights the height.
The other thing you could do is if, you could put a double window up top too, or a larger window that could, help with the vertical elements. You just play with the plan.
That's good feedback. Thank
and we've had, you know, a couple options being presented to us, like at a follow-up meeting, you know, option A, option B, you know, and, you know, take a look at them, compare them, and maybe there's even an option C. We're giving you a lot here. And then you just kind of, we'll look at all three, and then I think this is the best direction, and see what the board thinks, and hone in on it.
But to bring up Mike's point, I don't have any objections to what they're doing on the house.
Yeah, I think, I'm not hearing anything strong with the chimney, because it's a new addition. Any concerns there or with the, and I don't think the back is that visible from,
Yeah.
maybe from,
Even the side, long sides down Middle Street, it's
maybe from School Street looking back, maybe, but
pretty obscure.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
does anyone want to go out and see the property before the next meeting to help with this?
That might be helpful, and particularly if we gave them, scheduled it where you could have some other thoughts about the garage when we got there.
So we typically come out on Saturday mornings, like 9 o'clock or so. So we could do that before the next meeting, so, you know, we're meeting on the 11th of April, so up until that Saturday before, you know, that's,
I can call you and,
That'd be great. If we could schedule ahead of time, that'd be great.
yeah.
Okay. One of those first couple.
and then if we could get some drawings before the next meeting, like 10 days ahead or so, and then even with some options if you have them, then that would be very helpful to us.
Okay.
And if, you know, if you can get to it, I don't know what your timing is and how this is going to be set up, but if you had some drawings at the, you know, at the site visit, then we can just kind of see how this fits in. Do you have any wiggle room on the width of the building at all?
We'll look, I mean, it's pretty.
It starts to
tight.
get close to the.
On both sides, it's
Yeah,
pinched from the setback and then also from the,
Okay.
from the house and the walkway. But we'll take a look at that as well.
Okay.
The only other thing I would point out is we've never approved an Anderson A series that's visible from a public way.
Got
We want to see some alternatives. All wood.
All wood on the garage, if that's all wood, and then,
Yeah,
I mean, the rear.
if it's visible from a public way, then.
Okay.
Simulated divided light if you want.
Simulated by all wood, that's fine, okay. For the windows.
Anything else that we should point out? Okay, all right, yes.
Very good.
Yeah, if you have any
Good
questions,
feedback.
follow up before the meeting or give Andrea a call.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for coming in. All right. Al, sorry for the long wait.
No,
You've been very patient. Thank you. All right, next up, 85 Main Street. This is for the replacement of 8 windows on the north and west sides of the church. And it was very, very helpful to come out and see.
no, I didn't. I got injured, actually. It wasn't fun.
Watch your eyes,
It was lumpy and
everybody.
bumpy.
Oh, no.
Don't get injuries.
It was great to come out and see the church
Yeah,
over
thanks
the
for
weekend.
coming. Yeah.
It's really quite nice inside, all the work that's being done.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's terrific.
It really is. It's wonderful.
The addition, the side addition is coming in the spring, so that'll be
Yeah.
fun to watch come out of the ground.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. So, you're here for the windows. You want to, any more comments? This is
We
the first
talked about
meeting,
it,
so,
yeah.
yeah, so
Right,
just-
so-
if you just want to rehash real quickly.
Well, the goal would be to, you know, replace the old windows.
Yeah.
And sort of do away with the storms. And get, you know, a true divided, simulated divided light, bright window that would actually be more in keeping with the main church windows because they don't have insulating ability. They don't have a storm window. They're just single pane glass.
Yeah.
So that would, it would look more in keeping with that, but I know that's really not where it could go, I suppose, but
Okay.
I just want to make, I just
that's just something that's on my mind. Like when I've been driving around town and just looking at windows specifically in old houses. And when you see an old house that doesn't have a storm, you get beautiful reflected light off of each pane of glass. And it's,
Right.
and then you put the storm up and you just get a big reflection of one sheet of glass. And it's a totally different experience.
Yes.
So in that vein, I would say that, a window like this would enhance the facade as opposed to keeping what's there. But that's,
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Any thoughts after the site visit, and checking out the windows? What do you guys think?
I thought the windows seemed like they were in pretty good shape. And it seems a shame to lose them.
It's right there. I know, I get it. It would be ideal if we could, again, the storm window look and feel to me is something that's just unattractive.
If they were redone, would they fit in a way that would obviate the need for the storms?
We could do an interior storm. That would be the only way. Some kind of a thermal break on the inside, but that's cumbersome, opening and closing windows. It just doesn't really work in real life.
We couldn't get them open. I know they need some work.
Yeah, they'll
But
need
they-
some work.
But they did look, other than that, I know the functionality needs to be, there needs to be some repair and restoration
Yeah,
there.
they'll need some TLC.
Right, but the muttons look like they were, I mean, those wide muttons matching up with the main church and,
Yeah, it's a nice beefy old window.
yeah, yeah.
Have you looked at some of the other storm window manufacturers? Allied does a window that actually, storm window that sits inside the casing?
Yeah, that's a cleaner look, no question. So that might be something we could consider, cleaner storm. I've used those.
So these windows are original to the build,
To that edition, which was in
To that
the
edition,
30s.
in the 30s,
Yeah.
okay.
And they're in good shape. Did you want to add anything, Terry?
No.
Thanks.
I assumed that we were doing this for insulation purposes
Yeah,
as
that's-
well,
that's-
so I'll add that.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I think it would be really a shame to replace old windows unless they really had to be. And I think they'd really have to be on their last legs before I could support that kind of replacement, because, and I'm certainly sympathetic to the appeal of windows and visual and so forth, but I think you can put a storm on and not compromise the look through the window. Maybe not a combination storm and screen, but a storm, and not compromise. And in the service of full disclosure, I did it on 40 windows in my house. So, and it has not been a problem in terms of my looking out at all. You know, I did the wood frames and the, you know.
No, it's true, you can do that look, and it works, and it keeps the elements out. But it
Yeah.
does, it's just that, it's that reflective one sheet of glass that, to me, is something lost, something is lost in the
Yeah.
in the whole look and feel of what we're after, I think, sometimes, so,
Yeah.
that's all. But I get looking out, it's all, clear as day. It's just that subtleness of the reflections. I've been looking around.
Mike, I know you were out there.
Yeah, I mean, they look like they're in good shape, and I think if they can be restored and you can get a new storm in there, you'll get the thermal benefits, and I know you won't get the visual that you're looking for, but, I think they're in good shape and could fairly easily be restored.
And they'll last a long time. That's good wood that's in those.
True.
Well, I have to say, I went out for a site visit, I went alone, and I walked up to those windows and I thought, why are we replacing them? So I didn't understand this, what your standpoint was. They are in good shape. I looked at the lock set and they did look like something newer, meaning mid-century.
Okay.
But I would prefer to see them, I think you can do an awful lot with restoration and get some of the thermal enhancements as well through the restoration. Whether or not you need to add a storm, I don't know. Maybe you could try no storm to start and see what kind of performance you get out of them after being restored. And then it's an easy decision. You haven't spent any money on the storms yet. Then you can decide whether
That's
or
a good way
not
to go.
to add the storm.
Kind of the best of both worlds if they don't, they're not drafted.
The windows that were restored, the beautiful windows inside the sanctuary on the side, they don't have storms on them, right? No.
That's why it was cold in there when you were in there.
Right, we don't heat that as much as well.
Unless you're
Mainly
having a
using it
service.
for Sundays or weddings or funerals or something like that, so, yeah.
They were gorgeous.
Yeah, they are.
Anything else? No. So I don't know if we're gonna have anybody make a motion on this. So I'm gonna have to make an adjustment to make make a motion to deny, you know, the application. So, somebody like to do that? Ronnie, you
I'll
want?
make a motion to deny the application for 85 Main Street, the First Baptist Church, for the replacement of 8 windows on the rear of the church, and encourage that restoration and storm windows be considered.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Well, thank you
All
for
right,
your
so-
Thanks for waiting around.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the good
You know,
feedback.
I was just reading something today on the Mass Historical Commission listserv, and there are a number of local historic district commissions that will require at least getting an estimate for repair or restoration rather than before they'll even consider.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so,
Wow.
yeah.
That same listserv claims that a restored window will last about 100 years, and newer windows, you might replace 2.5 times in that.
This is the materials. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming in.
Oh, my pleasure.
Are we on the record? Records is still recorded?
Yes, we're recorded.
I was curious about the garage. I was doing some sketches, and I was sort of wondering the verticality of it.
Oh, yeah, the meeting before?
Yeah, just before.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Yeah, they're
All
gonna
right,
come back.
thank you, we're being recorded.
Yeah, they're gonna come back in. They're gonna come back in now, so,
yeah, no, I did a sketch, I wasn't sure.
you know,
You can do that. You can strap it by or something, or send me
Architects
a
compare notes.
scan.
Not just stepping on anyone's toes or anything.
No.
No, they can ignore it if, what we give it to them.
I think it probably will.
Andrea's probably got their contact info, so.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right, should we go through the minutes?
Yes, please.
So this is my first look at these. I think we just got these, right?
Yes. These are
Some-
Miss
some of your-
Sherry's wonderful minutes.
Thanks, Sherry.
Very quick
All right, you wanna
turnaround.
take,
Benjamin.
Yeah.
you guys will take a few minutes to read this? I think Ben's got a change or two already, right?
Yep.
You have a change already? Oh, you
Uh,
want to
The
be bold?
voting, the
Well,
voting.
Members absent, Veronica Madden, she can't be in bold.
No, it means that she is,
A voting member.
yes,
Got it.
correct.
Okay.
So it doesn't mean for that evening.
I'm
Okay.
always bold, Ben.
I guess
And you're not.
so. No.
I can see how that would be confusing. Oh, we did. Fun facts for March. Some really good ones.
I want you to hear, I want you to sing the Motown song.
Oh, the opportunity is lost.
I had a fun time listening to that.
Oh, my goodness.
Again, very nice minutes, Sherry.
Thank you. So this March in 1959, Barbie makes her debut at the American Toy Fair in New York City.
Wow. When
I
did
didn't
Ken
know she
come?
was that old.
I don't know, pardon? She is that old.
Ages very well.
And then, let's see, there was something else that was, oh, for you sports fans, the Detroit Red Wings score the winning goal at 2:25 a.m. during the longest NHL game in history in 1936.
Against the Bruins?
I don't know who, they didn't say who. And another one? We're almost done, believe me.
Is this March 14th again?
No, this is, that was Sunday, that was March the 24th for the Red Wings. And on
Got a ways to
Saturday,
go.
on the 30th of March, in 1867, the U.S. purchased Alaska from Russia for $7.2 million.
Good deal.
Yep.
You guys done,
That's it.
you guys done with the reading?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for Thursday, February 7th, 2019. Do we have any changes? First of all, do we have any changes? Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you, Sherry.
Outstanding. So, one thing I do want to mention, you may not have seen it,
Are we adjourned?
I did send, not quite yet, I sent out today something that Susan Murphy sent me.
Oh, yeah.
It's
The case.
the case from
Yeah.
Nantucket. And I really appreciated her summary, or pointing out the key points. But it's very interesting to be continued. So if you haven't had a chance to read it yet, it's kind of a,
I had a problem with the download. It wouldn't go past page 4.
Oh,
so-
really?
Yeah, and I just wasn't in a position to, so I'll get a copy of it and read
Yeah.
it and highlight it.
Anything else?
let's see, Sunday, April the 7th, at the community center starting at 1, from 1 to 3, is the first ever townwide preservation awards ceremony. So, the what?
Isn't it 1 to 4?
No, well, no, it's 1 to 3, actually. So, we only have so much
Yeah,
food and for
okay.
several.
And then
Okay.
there's cleanup, which I'm
And then,
volunteering
that's
to
right,
help.
thank you very much. So please do come, I think it's, a lot of people did a lot of hard work, so.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay, and then other than that, mark your calendars for Sunday, May the 19th, again from 1 to 3. We have the Battle of Grape Island, and it's even bigger and better this year. Last year we added the British, soldiers. And so it's going to be quite the event this year.
This is the Spanish.
So anyway, do mark your calendars. It's quite fun. All right, I'm all set.
All right. I'd like to adjourn tonight's meeting. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you all for coming.